Hi, and welcome to the Business Pioneer Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Montgomery, founder and CEO of Three Girls Media, an award-winning digital marketing agency. Today's guest is someone who understands the value of hard work, family, and definitely craftsmanship. Zac Oberg from Eli's Paver Patios has spent 16 years building a business that is dedicated to transforming outdoor spaces. His journey began with yard maintenance alongside his grandparents, and that was followed by hands-on experience in the paving stone industry, first in manufacturing, then in distribution. Eventually, he found his home at Eli's, where he helped build a company that is rooted in family and quality, which I really appreciate. Eli's Paver Patio specializes in hardscape installation and great outdoor living. They work with homeowners to create absolutely stunning and durable outdoor spaces. They were recognized as a Belgard Master Craftsman, so Zac really takes pride in his team's ability to combine beauty and functionality in every single project. Zac, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Erica.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on. So, Eli's Paver Patios, being in business 16 years is no joke. First of all, tell me a little bit about the business and how you got started.
So I kind of got started, like I said, or like in your introduction. I started working with my grandparents growing up. I grew up on a farm, lived right next door to them. It's actually where my dad grew up farming as well. And their retirement was doing yard maintenance. So I helped them. They had a couple accounts close by. I grew up down in Oregon. They did a big cemetery. So I kind of always enjoyed being outside working. When I turned 16 and could get a job and work summers, I started working at the manufacturer and working hands-on with a lot of the products. And then that kind of moved me into Washington, working with homeowners at the distributor. And it really opened my eyes to possibilities of where to go in the industry. I really enjoyed working with homeowners, walking through them with their project. And so that kind of really kind of drove me to kind of go into an industry where we're helping homeowners build their outdoor space that they've been dreaming about, and they just need a little bit of help with the vision, what they can do, what they can't necessarily do, or how to make those two kind of blend together, those things that are really hard to do, or that most people say, oh, well, you can't do that, and make it be something you can do. So that's kind of where kind of it started, where it went to, and just where I enjoy being outside and helping people, bringing family together too. When you have an outdoor space you can enjoy and you want to actually invite people to see, it makes me happy. I'm being part of something like that where I'm helping bring people together.
Yeah, and especially here in Washington State, our summers are very short. It's difficult to be outside sometimes in the winter. And obviously, the more functional and nice of an outdoor space you have, the more likely it is that people are going to use it. So I'm sure that gives you a lot of satisfaction to be able to create beautiful, functional spaces that people can really use year round here in Washington.
Exactly. And I definitely think these last couple of years where people have been working more at home has really made that become more of a thing in Washington, because it always has been I can only enjoy my space or only enjoy being outside 3 months out of the year. But now there's like this new light of, well, I'm home all the time. So even if I'm in my house and I look outside, I want to look at something nice, whether that's adding some lighting to a project so that even at nighttime when it's getting dark at 4:00, in the winters, it's still, they can look out their windows and see this awesome hardscape, this awesome yard. Just kind of extends their house into the outdoors.
That's amazing. And it sounds like you mentioned outdoor lighting, which is obviously more than just pavers. So give me the full idea of the scope of work that you can provide for homeowners.
So we provide, because hardscapes is kind of a lot of people hear hardscapes and they think, okay, you do rockery, you do flagstone, concrete, kind of anything to do with outdoor areas. We really specialize in segmented concrete products, or like porcelain tiles. So a lot of, pavers for patios, walkways, driveways. We do a lot of outdoor kitchens, outdoor fireplaces, fire pits, planters. Retaining walls is a big one that people don't always think about because our name is Eli's Paver Patios. So that was kind of one of those hurdles too early on that was like, well, your name says patios, so do you just do patios? And so, no, we do driveways, we do your retaining walls. Drainage is a big one too. That's probably one of our biggest ones that we have to battle a little bit. Is people always ask, well, do you guys do drainage? And it's like, well, part of what we do is drainage. We're helping control water. We got to figure out where we're sending water. So that's kind of that whole scope. It's hardscapes, but there's a lot of things that we do, kind of like putting a roof on a house. It's a necessity, or a fence around your yard. Sometimes it's a necessity. Drainage and retaining walls oftentimes can be a necessity. So we do those as well.
Yeah, I would especially think the drainage is critically important here in Washington with all the rain we get. And so thinking about where the water is going to go and how you're going to deal with that in order to keep the finished product that you're creating, dry and not have it flood out is key to the design process.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, water is kind of our worst enemy, as most homeowners it is. So it's always trying to figure out, and sometimes we have to get pretty creative on where to divert water to. And there's a lot of movement in the industry for properties to have a certain impervious to pervious ratio for your property. So people that are wanting to add outdoor living space or add to their driveway or add just a hard surface, a lot of times the county or the city will say, well, you have too much impervious surface if you add this. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we come in as well. And we can install permeable pavers that are a surface that's still a solid surface, still can serve its purpose of a patio or driveway, but it allows water to drain through, and it passes all the, everything the county and city want to see is keeping the water that's hitting your property on your property.
That's great to know. And speaking of the city and the county, does the type of work you do often require permits? And do you help the homeowner with the permitting process, if so?
Occasionally it will. Most of the time with flat work, it doesn't. Most of the time, if we have to do any permitting, it is retaining walls. In the, pretty much all over in the state of Washington, and sometimes most other states as well. Any wall that's over 4 feet tall is going to require engineering, and then it'll also require permitting. And it is something that we help the customers with, because that is another thing with the state of Washington is ultimately whether you need a permit or not, or whether your contractor gets a permit or not, the liability always falls to the property owner. So, sometimes if a homeowner is wanting to do a project, but they don't want to do the permit, it all ultimately falls to the homeowner if they get into a situation with the city or the county.
Sure. And so if they do need a permit, you help them through that process. Yep. If they need it. That's amazing. Because I know that can be a real bear for a lot of homeowners that might be unfamiliar with the process.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There's a couple projects that they've actually kind of gone a step further and hired a consulting company to help with all the permitting because they have waterfront property and we're kind of a smaller portion of the whole project, so they need permits for other things. But yeah, there's consulting companies out there because most counties, most county permit offices and most city permit offices don't actually know what building permits you need for what you're building. Whether that's hardscape or decking or whatever. So a lot of times they'll just tell you, hey, you need to hire a consulting company to figure out what permitting you need.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me a little bit about the geographic area that Eli's Paver Patio serves.
So we currently go from Vancouver all the way to like Lake Forest Park, Woodinville, Sammamish area. So kind of up and down that I-5 corridor. And then Jimmy was actually out in Ellensburg today. So we will travel east. We'd much rather go west versus going east, but we will go out there. The whole reason too why we span so far is because we try to specialize just in the niche market of hardscapes. It's a conversation we kind of have every year. Do we expand on what we do and stay kind of where we're at and stay close, or do we expand on just growing where we go so we can keep with the industry?
Mm-hmm.
And usually always falls with that is let's expand our territory and just stick to knowing hardscapes. Because a lot of people on our team, this has been the industry they've known for a long time. So we have, besides myself having 16 years in the industry, the whole team has a lot of years of experience doing this.
Yeah, and I would imagine that that's important, that you've got the experience, because you know what's going to work in a space and what's not. And a homeowner may have a certain idea of what they want, but you can let them know whether or not it would work or what materials may be best for their particular area and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's helping customers make educated decisions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of companies out there in all fields of construction that really try to press for the hard sale. Our team really focuses on the education of it because, like you just mentioned, that not every product is best suited for every situation, and so really knowing the products, knowing what we're doing, and where what the customer's looking for as well.
Sure. So, what's new in the world of hardscapes? Have you seen it change much over the last 16 years, or have things stayed relatively the same in the industry?
The industry's definitely had changes. I would say installation practices have changed, and that'd be more of the last 25 years. 25 years ago in Washington, a lot of people just thought you'd throw pavers down on sand. Over the years, they've really developed, for a patio, you want a geotextile layer that separates your gravel and your dirt. And then you want to, put it up the sides as well of your excavation. You want to have a compacted 5/8 minus base, an inch of sand, then your paver. So that installation process has changed a lot over the years to combat the Northwest. The Northwest has a very unique soils, very unique weather compared to other states and other climates. So that's part where it's grown a lot. But then styles, there was, only maybe 5 different types of material you could really use for patios. And there are lots of different textures, finishes, modern styles, rustic styles. From installation all the way up to different products, it's changed a lot. I do see a movement for porcelain tiles. That's something we've been seeing a lot in the last year. And I think that's a durability thing, is the Northwest having harsher weather. It can wear stones a little bit differently if you don't do the correct maintenance on them. They are very low maintenance, but there's still some maintenance, just like washing your car. But with porcelain, I feel like that's going to be a movement. It's a little more expensive product, but it holds up to the weather a lot better and cleaning.
That's good to know that people have that option now for a product that's durable and long lasting and that will look good for a long time to come.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your marketing. How do you market Eli's Paver Patios?
So we do kind of a wide range of marketing. We do a lot of Facebook. We do Instagram. We've done the reels. We try to keep up on our stories. We actually, where I'm at today is our mall location. We actually have an indoor showroom at the Capitol Mall in Olympia, which is a new thing as of a couple years ago. And it's actually been really good for us. For one, we've been able to send customers after we close a deal to look at the product and pick it out in a dry environment, so they're not having to be out in the rain. Like I said, 6 months out of the year it's raining, so it's hard to get a good idea of the product. But also, it brings a lot of people in. For a long time the mall was kind of dying, or malls in general. All malls were kind of just dying, and it's actually picked up a lot. There's a lot more that malls are doing now to bring people in, so it's been really good for us. We do a lot of direct mail. That's a big one too. We invest in that pretty heavily. We've created our own brochure so that when we're going out to homeowners' houses, instead of just handing them a product brochure, like I'm sure most other contractors would do, show them product books. We've actually developed our own product, or our own Eli's Paver Patios brochure that has photos of our jobs, a little bit about paving stones, why do paving stones, a little bit about the company and the history in the back. So those are some big ones. We try to really ask a lot of our customers, whether they hire us or not. One of those first questions is, how'd you hear about us? And a big one's actually our vehicles. We hear that a lot, is that people see us on the road, and so we've tried to get a couple of our work vehicles wrapped, so a little bit more decaled out on the roads, a little more, stand out a little more than just a, generic name on the side of a truck. But yeah, those are those big, and then referrals. I mean, referrals is like the biggest one, but that's kind of a harder one to market to. Yeah, that's kind of, our big one. I would say our biggest one's probably mailers, our direct mail, and then the malls turning into a really big one. And then Facebook's, you can get a lot from Facebook, but I would say the quality of the lead is less than what like a mailer would be.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with social media, there's definitely a time and a place, but obviously, building that really exact target audience is so key for social media advertising. And, even then, sometimes the quality of leads, depending on the type of industry you're in, might not be as good as you would get from like a direct mailer. And I have heard from a lot of people in sort of the home service industry, like Eli's Paver Patios, the direct mail can work really, really well. So it's great to know that that's working for you, and that the postal service is not dead when it comes to marketing.
Yep.
Yeah. So when it comes to what's next for your business, what changes do you see, happening in the next 3 to 5 years?
In the next 3 to 5 years, I definitely see, you asked about marketing or the kind of market changes, and I definitely see us going in the direction of, the porcelain side going, picking up a lot more, doing more like pool decks. We've done a couple of those now, and oddly enough, there actually are a lot of people that have pools in Washington. But so that's one. I could definitely see us getting into that market a little bit more, doing pool decks and advertising to people that have pools. I see a big push for design. That's something for a long time we've never had to focus as much on, like 3D renderings or full landscape designs. And so we have partnered with a independent landscape designer, because we have lost jobs in the past where, we're just in there doing the hardscape side, but there's somebody else that's coming in to do everything, and so usually that guy that's doing everything does pavers also. And so for a homeowner, they're a little more comfortable just saying, okay, well, I just want one company to do it all. So we have partnered with a designer. That's definitely something I see being a little bit more implemented over the next couple of years. Maybe not so much because we don't do designs, but I see people more wanting to revamp their whole yards or their whole project, their whole property. So our focus is usually on a smaller part. For a long time and still now we just do hand sketches, which a lot of times we can do everything from a hand sketch really well. And because our sales staff stays on as a project manager, where most other companies you have a sales guy that sells the job, and then they're kind of removed from the picture, and a project manager comes in and swoops up the job. Where we design the job, but then we also manage the job. So with a hand sketch, we can kind of get by with being more involved and making changes throughout the project if we need. And then we always go over it with the customer, as we're building it, we're going, hey, this might look a little better. What do you think? And usually either we'll stick to the design, or we'll go, that actually looks really good. Let's let's go that route. Not that it's a change order where it costs more money. It's just more of a, now's the time to make the decision of, do we do it this way or this way? You've got kind of two options, no right or wrong, but what would you rather look at?
Sure. Just choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would you have for newer entrepreneurs that are, either just starting out or maybe have only been in business a little while?
Time is valuable. Looking at what your time is worth is that's a big one. Because that's, I think, from talking to a lot of business owners, that's the number one thing that always gets looked over is because at the end of the day, they're the last one that's getting paid. But if you don't figure out how much your time is worth, then you can't figure out how much to pay yourself. You can't figure out how much margin you need on a job or if you're out doing the work yourself, you need to factor in all your business expenses plus a dollar amount per hour for yourself. And I think that's a really big one. Is there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners that go into doing it and they don't get very far because they're the ones doing the work all the time. In our industry, I would say the majority of companies that do construction, they never grow past 2 crews because the owner is usually always having to be on site. And so they'll do half the day on one job, half the day on the other job, and then into the night he's doing everything. He's doing everything else. His books and keeping everything straight. So I think that's a big one. Is find someone that can help you with what you're not good at. Focus on what you're good at and find someone that you're not good at.
Yeah, I was interviewing somebody else last week, and they essentially had the exact same advice. And I think that's so smart, is to focus on what you do well, do that, and then outsource everything else. And it's one of the lessons that I learned when I started my business 20 years ago, because I certainly knew how to do marketing, but I knew nothing about things like, payroll or HR or taxes or anything like that. And so, ended up having to hire people to help me with all of those things, especially as I brought employees on and things like that. And it was definitely some of the best advice that I ever got, because, what did I know about taxes? Absolutely nothing. And so, you hire an expert to do that.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, don't necessarily think twice about, hiring somebody to help them with their taxes, but maybe less so about other areas of their business that they, might have more hesitancy on or think, oh, I can just figure it out myself. But that brings us back to a point that you mentioned a minute ago, which is your time is valuable, right? So do you really want to waste time trying to figure out a bunch of stuff that you aren't really expert in and don't know really well? Or do you want to spend it on the stuff that you know how to do in growing your business? And I think that that's really important to keep in mind. So terrific advice. So let me ask you, what do you like to do, Zac, when you're not working? What do you do for fun?
Typically what I do for fun outside of work is, and this is actually something that ties back to what we were just talking about, is spend time with my family. I've got a wife. We've been married. This year will be 11 years. And then I've got 4 kids. I've got,
wow.
My oldest is turning 10 this year. And then I got 7, then twin boys that are 4. And so, yeah, when I'm not working, it's spending time at home, whether that's, getting home before it's dark and it's playing on the playground for a little bit, pushing the kids on the swing, them driving the Power Wheels around, riding bikes. We got some property out in Chehalis, so plenty of space for them to run and play. But that's usually in my free time because, like we were talking earlier, time's valuable, and that's something to always think about when you're in business, is keeping time for your family. Family's important. So, aside from family, that fun of it, I enjoy going golfing. So that's finding time for that's always hard too, but a fun thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, any last words of advice that you would like to leave for the entrepreneurs that are listening to the show?
Advice would be, it's it's going to be hard at first, but if you stick with it, it'll pay off. Find some people that you can be mentored by and bounce ideas off of. With what we do, I tell a lot of my, guys that work for us is, questions are free. So if you have questions, ask them. The more questions you ask, the more answers you'll get. And either they'll tell you you're doing the right thing and you're going in the right direction, or they'll tell you, well, that might not be the best thing, and maybe go a different direction. A lot of the conferences and training things that we go to, because we try to do a lot of continued education, you can always learn more in your industry or just about business or sales, networking. But I would say, going to those, even if it sounds like it's a class and you feel like you know everything about that part of the class or whatever that class topic is, if you have the opportunity to go and the time, it's best to go, because you're either going to hear something you didn't know and you'll learn from it, or you'll just hear everything that you're already doing and go, well, shoot, I'm on the right track. Mm-hmm. That's reassurance. Those things are really important, because otherwise you can be, floundering, essentially out there and spending a lot of money on marketing, or spending a lot of money in directions that you don't need to be spending money in. So I think continued education and find people to be in your corner that you can call and be mentored by.
I think fantastic advice on both fronts. Our guest has been Zac Oberg with Eli's Paver Patios. Zac, tell everyone where they can find Eli's Paver Patios online.
Online, it's elispaverpatios.com. And if you want to come into our showroom, we're at the Capitol Mall in Olympia, and we have a full showroom where you can come take a look at all the pavers and some synthetic turf.
And they can also find you on social media as well, right? Facebook and Instagram, you said?
Yep. Facebook and Instagram. Yep.
And they just search for Eli's Paver Patios on either platform?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Zac, thank you so much. You've been a terrific guest. I've really enjoyed learning about your business and wish you best of luck in the future.
Yeah, again, thank you.
Absolutely. Bye now.
Bye.